All right, let's talk about Jensen Huang, the founder and CEO of NVIDIA. Now, you've probably seen the signature black leather jacket, and you've definitely heard about the AI boom. But the story of the guy at the very center of it all? It's one of the most incredible journeys in modern tech, and it kicks off with a pretty wild comparison.
I mean, seriously? When Mark Zuckerberg calls you the tech world's Taylor Swift, you know you've hit a totally different level of fame. So how on earth did an electrical engineer from Taiwan become this global icon, where every single keynote he gives is treated like a rock concert? Well, the answer is an amazing story of chaos, near failure, and one of the biggest, gutsiest bets in business history.
So, before we rewind, let's just get a sense of how dominant Huang is right now. We're not just talking about a CEO here. He's basically the leader of a revolution. He's the man providing the absolute essential hardware for the artificial intelligence that is, as we speak, reshaping our entire world.
And if you want to understand the sheer scale of his success, just think about this number. Analysts are predicting that under his leadership, NVIDIA could just rocket past a $5 trillion market cap by 2025. That cements its place as one of the most valuable companies on the planet. To get how he pulled that off, we need to go way, way back, to the beginning.
This is the classic hero's journey, really. It starts with a childhood that was anything but stable. His story isn't one of that typical Silicon Valley privilege. Nope, it's a story forged in constant change and learning how to adapt on the fly.
So he was born in Taiwan, then his family moved to Thailand when he was just 5, and then at 9 years old, he and his brother were sent to America, all by themselves, to escape social unrest and just to get a shot at a better future. They landed in Washington state without speaking a word of English.
And here's where the story takes a truly bizarre turn. His aunt and uncle, who were recent immigrants themselves, heard about the school out in rural Kentucky. They thought it was some kind of prestigious prep school, so they enrolled Jensen and his brother. It was actually the Oneida Baptist Institute, a reform school for troubled kids. A complete mistake.
Can you imagine? At 10 years old, Huang's daily chore was cleaning toilets. He's in this environment with kids covered in tattoos and knife scars, and what does he do? He makes a deal with his 17-year-old roommate. He'd teach the guy how to read, and in return, his roommate would teach him how to bench press. That is just an unbelievable display of resilience, right?
So after his parents finally made it to the US and the family got back together in Oregon, his first real job was at a Denny's. He started out washing dishes, worked his way up to busboy, then waiter. Just keep that image in your head, because the contrast between that and that $5 trillion figure is just staggering.
You know, every great story has that moment of crisis, right? For NVIDIA, it came really early on. The company that he co-founded at a Denny's of all places back in 1993 came dangerously close to just vanishing before it ever got started. Early on, they made a massive miscalculation. Their very first chip, the NV1, was built to process graphics using, well, a shape called quadrilaterals. But then Microsoft comes out with its DirectX platform, which became the new gold standard for PC gaming, and it was built entirely around triangles. So the NV1 was completely incompatible. It was a total flop.
And this was almost the knockout punch. Sega had hired NVIDIA to build a chip for its new Dreamcast console. But when NVIDIA's tech fell behind schedule, Sega just pulled the plug. The company was literally on the brink of bankruptcy. But then, in this incredible act of generosity, Sega's president, who really believed in Huang, convinced his board to invest $5 million in this failing company, giving them a 6-month lifeline. Just 6 months.
This phrase, "This is what Huang would say at the start of company meetings for years," it became their unofficial motto. And it wasn't just a saying, it was their reality. That constant feeling that failure was right around the corner. It was literally baked into NVIDIA's DNA from day one.
So with that tiny 6-month lifeline, Huang didn't just play it safe. He didn't just try to survive. No, he engineered one of the greatest strategic pivots in the history of tech. He basically bet the entire company on a completely new vision for what computing could be.
And the heart of that whole vision was this thing, the graphics processing unit, the GPU. Now back then, everybody else saw it as just a tool for making video games look cool. But Huang, he saw its potential for something called parallel processing, the ability to do tons of complex calculations all at the same time. This was the absolute key.
The comeback basically happened in 3 stages. First, they built a new chip, the Riva 128, that actually used the industry-standard triangles. That saved the company. Then, they released the GeForce 256, and they literally coined the term GPU.
But the real masterstroke, the genius move, was step 3, creating CUDA. It's a software platform that let developers use the GPU's power for anything, not just for graphics. This was the long-term bet that would eventually pay off in the trillions.
And you know what? That decision to build CUDA decades ago is the exact reason why Jensen Huang is the Taylor Swift of tech today. Because when the AI revolution finally happened and it needed a supercomputer to train its models, well, NVIDIA was the only company that had already spent years building both the hardware and the software to do it.
And this is what that looks like. NVIDIA doesn't just have a piece of the AI chip market, it practically is the market. It controls somewhere between 80 and 95% of all high-end AI chips. From OpenAI to Google to everyone else, pretty much every major AI company is running on NVIDIA hardware.
His leadership style is just as unique as his vision. He believes in a really flat structure, with something like 60 people reporting directly to him. His whole philosophy? The people who work for him should be the absolute best at what they do and require, as he puts it, the least amount of pampering.
So what does all this add up to? Well, it's a legacy that goes way beyond just market caps in tech. It extends into philanthropy and, believe it or not, some really surprising family connections.
He and his wife Lori have been incredibly generous, especially to the places that shaped them. They've donated tens of millions to their alma maters, Oregon State and Stanford. And in this beautiful full-circle moment, they donated $2 million to that same Oneida Baptist Institute in Kentucky, the reform school, to build a new girls' dorm and a classroom building. And for the final plot twist, you know who the CEO of NVIDIA's biggest rival, AMD, is? A woman named Lisa Su. She's a brilliant engineer who's credited with her own historic corporate turnaround. And as it turns out, she and Jensen Huang are related. Yep, the leaders of the two biggest rival chip companies in the entire world are family.
Which brings us right to our final question. I mean, from a mistaken reform school and a Denny's kitchen to the absolute heart of the artificial intelligence revolution, Jensen Huang's journey is just this incredible testament to vision and resilience. So, as the tech he pioneered keeps changing everything around us, you just have to wonder, what is he going to build next?